10 to 15. For tonight, a chance of a few showers and thunderstorms, partly to mostly cloudy near 70. A little better chance of showers and thunderstorms Thursday, partly sunny, the high in the mid to upper 80s. And isolated showers and thunderstorms Friday, partly sunny, the high around 85. Jonesboro's community radio station, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News, I'm Natalie Powell with your latest world news. US President Donald Trump has threatened North Korea after the country announced it was considering missile strikes near the US territory of Guam. Early results from the Kenyan presidential election show the incumbent Uhuru Kenyatta leading with nearly all of the votes counted. And in France, a vehicle has struck a group of soldiers in a suburb northwest of Paris.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning to everyone out there. It is Wednesday, yes, and today is Ask the Attorney Day on Community Conversations. I'm your host for today, Quabila Harden, and my special guest today is Mr. Scott Willhite, a local attorney. Good morning.
Good morning, Quabila. How are you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful, so thank you for joining me today. And today we're going to talk about a few things, but mainly I posed a question to Mr. Scott. Okay. He deals a lot with workers' compensation. And so how do you know when someone's filing a true claim, or is there any way to validate whether it's a false claim? How do you go about doing investigations and things of that nature? So we'll try to work our way through this topic. Okay, so I don't know what exactly, or maybe talk about personal injury, what is the starting process of even filing a workers' comp claim? And
sure. Let's sort of start with an overview of the difference, a personal injury claim and a workers' comp claim.
Okay.
And really, if you have an accident, it could result in both.
Okay.
You could have both a personal injury claim and a workers' comp claim. For instance, let's just say you are a driver and you deliver medical supplies or some sort of equipment for a company. And you have an accident. Doesn't matter if it's your fault, someone else's fault, the fault of the vehicle. You could be in a situation where you have both a workers' comp claim and a personal injury claim.
Okay.
And so they're two totally distinct and separate claims. They're filed in separate courts, separate documents, separate time frames.
Okay.
There's separate, different requirements for each. So it's very important that people understand there are limitations of time. For instance, a personal injury claim, you have to file that within 3 years in Arkansas, or it's barred. A workers' comp claim, you have to file it within 2 years generally.
Okay.
Now, I deal with both personal injury and workers' comp claims. Workers' comp is very specific. There are statutes in Arkansas, written statutes that dictate what type of injuries are covered.
Okay.
And so that's probably day in, day out what I deal with the most.
Okay.
And typically, if an employer has 3 or more regular employees, they have to have workers' comp coverage. So, if you work for an individual and you're the only employee, they don't have to have workers' comp coverage.
Okay.
So it's not going to fall within the workers' comp statutes. But if there are 3 more regular employees, then they're supposed to have that kind of insurance.
Okay.
And so, if you slip and fall, or if your boss does something negligent, causes you injury, or if your co-employee does something that causes you injury, or if it's just an accident that happens because, say you fall in a hole on your employer's property and you're working for him, it's still supposed to be covered by workers' comp.
Workers' comp, okay. Now, there are some people, and we'll get into this a little bit later. Some people go around seeking opportunities to file lawsuits. So when someone comes to you and say, I would like to file a claim, be it workers' comp or personal injury, how do you then go about trying to vet whether, okay, let's see if this is a valid claim?
And that's really an important point, because I'm a Christian and I want to do things in a way that honors God, and so I don't want to be in a process of filing a claim that's not legitimate. And I've read through the scripture how it deals with lawsuits, and it's pretty. There's a directive on how to handle disputes, and so I'm certainly aware of that and try to abide by that. But what we try to do is, there's a fairness aspect that someone has the right to make a claim under Arkansas law.
Okay.
And the insurance company or the defendant, whoever that is, the individual or insurance company or business, has a right to question anything about that claim. But I'd say from my standpoint, I represent individuals. I don't represent businesses as much. I represent individuals who are injured.
Okay.
Someone comes to me and says, I had an accident at work. The first thing we want to see is whether there was a report made, pretty quickly after the accident, because that is a requirement under Arkansas law. You have to go and tell some supervisor or boss or someone in authority. And secondly, did they go to the doctor and did they report that incident to the doctor? Do the medical records say, Mr. Smith came in and reported he fell at work and hurt his shoulder or something, something consistent with what is being told to me in my office. And so those are the main points. And then, there are other requirements in Arkansas for workers' comp coverage. Just because you fall and hurt yourself or do something causing pain, that doesn't mean it's covered as a workers' comp injury in Arkansas. There has to be more to it than just pain.
Okay.
So those are other requirements we have to walk through.
Okay. Now, I know that I've had several jobs in my life, and when you go to any job, they give you a booklet or you go through some type of orientation, and here are all the safety rules of that job. So you can't say that you didn't see them or you didn't read them. And all over most businesses, they have, warning signs, or they have, caution, whatever the case may, depending on what industry you're working in. So if someone tries to file a suit against their company, can the company then come back and trump that, saying, but we have signs, we gave them literature, they signed off and said they understood, they read and understood, everything that was given to them in orientation. So can that dismiss the case?
It usually does not. When an employer-employee relationship is formed,
okay,
if you're an employee, it supersedes those warnings generally.
Oh.
So if you have warnings out there, it really depends if the employee is doing what they're supposed to be doing. If the employee is instructed, don't go in that area, it's dangerous, whatever, then you may have an issue. But generally, the employee's negligence, the employee's fault, is not considered.
Okay.
The only question is, was the person doing something that benefited the employer? Were they on the clock? Generally, there's several factors, but were they being paid? Were they within the course and scope of employment? Were they on the employer's property? Were they doing something that benefited the employer? Those are all the factors we look at in whether it's called an employment services issue, is whether the employee was performing services benefiting the employer at the time of the incident.
Okay.
Now, you have to look at the other side of the coin, is what if you were not an employee? It's a whole different law that applies. If you're just a part of the general population and you're on someone's property and there's warnings and you fall and hurt yourself because of a dangerous condition, totally different scenario, totally different law that applies. But as an employee, it should not matter if the employee is at fault as well. The question is, were they benefiting the employer at the time that they were working and injured?
All right, so let's go back to, we do have Shout out from Lorraine Williams Treese. She's checking in from Little Rock, so thank you, Lorraine, for checking in. And to all of you out there, if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Scott, please give us a call at 870-277-1080 or drop us a message on our Facebook live stream, and we'll be happy to address it on air. Okay, so I want to go back to when you mentioned how a situation can fall into both categories, workers' comp and personal injury. Say you're on the clock, as in a transport situation, you're on the clock, but you're off the property in your own personal vehicle. Of course, you're getting paid mileage or whatever the case may be. You are in an accident. So would you need one lawyer to handle that case? Would you file 2 claims? How would that process go?
You would potentially have 2 claims.
Okay.
You could have one lawyer who might do both types of cases.
Okay.
I do both for that very reason. And I have that situation come up with, in this area, we have a lot of nurses who travel.
Okay.
And for instance, they might provide nursing services to elderly people in their own homes. They bathe them, give them the medication, make sure they're okay. They come on a daily or maybe every other day basis. So let's say that's the scenario. You're a traveling employee. You're a nurse and you're going from house to house. You're in your own vehicle, but you're being paid.
Okay.
And you go from house to house. Someone hits you, someone, a third party runs into you and causes you some injury. Then typically you would have a workers' comp claim and you would have a personal injury claim. And they differ in several respects. Number one, when you have a workers' comp claim, the first thing that's supposed to happen is the workers' comp carrier is supposed to provide you medical care.
Okay.
In personal injury claims, you do not get that. The insurance company will settle with you possibly, but it'll be at the end of the case. They will not generally be paying for any of your medical care. And so you won't have any assistance going through that process from a personal injury insurance company.
Okay.
For instance, that Allstate, Hartford, Aetna, all these insurance companies wouldn't be paying you in that personal injury claim until the end or until you went to court.
Okay.
But a workers' comp claim, you turn that into your boss. The workers' comp carrier is supposed to start paying your medical bills. They actually get to select the doctor initially that you go to.
Okay.
And they pay for the doctor. So in the event you are an employee and you are injured, that's the first thing you've got to do is report it. And ask for medical care if you are hurt.
Now, you mentioned earlier that there is a grace, I don't want to say grace period, a statute of limitations. Statute of limitations. Why would someone wait X amount of years to report? I mean, why does the law give people that much time? Is it because maybe injuries show up later? Or and
that's part of the reason. And here's the scenario that takes place sometimes. Let's say you have an accident and you get some medical care.
Okay.
Okay. You don't have to actually file the claim to get the medical care.
Okay.
The insurance company generally does that as long as it's a legitimate claim, as long as it's they can see that it was something that happened on the clock, and they will provide the medical care. And let's say the medical care goes on for a year. Maybe it's a back injury. Well, and then say a year and a half later, the doctor says, well, it's not getting any better. I need to do surgery.
Okay.
Right? And the insurance company says, no, we're not going to do surgery. We think you had some old injury that caused the need for that surgery, not this new accident.
Okay.
Well, it gives the person time to file that claim for 2 years.
Okay.
They actually have 2 years plus a year from the date of the last visit to the doctor in a workers' comp claim. So there's kind of a dual opportunity. But many injuries don't fully arise for a period of time. Some medical care is not determined to be necessary for a period of time.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have a situation that people don't want to sue until they have to. Let's just say they're injured. They just try to work through it. They say, I'm a tough person. I want to work through this. I'm not going to fight. I never had a workers' comp claim in my life. Don't want to have one. But suddenly they get to the point they just can't go on after a while.
Okay.
The law gives them a period of time to determine the extent of injuries.
Okay. I'm so sorry for coughing. I had an incident And I think that I use a transportation service here in Jonesboro, and I had an incident where I fell. It was no fault of the server, and I think the driver was very concerned. He was concerned about me being hurt, of course, but I think there was some concern. Any company's concerned if one of their customers, patients, or however they're classified, gets hurt. If they get hurt, they're very concerned. Okay, or is someone gonna try to sue us? And I've known some companies that have gotten sued, and the payout or the request of the payout is so large that it can take the company under, just from one accident.
And that's a concern. I haven't seen that happen very often, and I can't think of a single incident where that has happened. Usually the insurance coverage is enough to pay for any judgment or settlement, and sometimes the person or the company doesn't have insurance, and that's a problem. If you're a business and you do deal with people, most industries you need insurance. If some you're required to have. Now, for instance, as an attorney, we don't have to have insurance.
Really?
But it's certainly a good idea because people make mistakes.
Okay.
We all make mistakes. But for instance, physicians. I can remember an incident a few years ago where there was a hospital that didn't have insurance for a period of time. And things like that concern me. But there are requirements. For instance, you driving a motor vehicle, there's an Arkansas requirement. You have to have insurance. You can't get your license generally until you have proof of insurance.
That's right.
And there's a minimum $25,000 that applies, and you have to have that. So most situations are insured, and if there's a claim made, the insurance is going to take care of it, so the business doesn't directly take the hit. Now, their insurance rates may go up.
Okay.
We had a individual make a claim against our law firm 7-8 years ago, and it affected our insurance rates, but not substantially.
Okay.
It was something that we have to have, and people make claims, and that's just part of the business process.
Oh wow. Okay. Now, say you're going through court. You're going through the process. You determine, okay, this is a valid case. I'm going to take it. We're going to go to court. Everything's prepared. And then some new evidence starts arising, or maybe some video or some audio or just some evidence.
And believe me, that happens a lot.
Okay.
And let's back up a little bit and talk about the different court systems.
Okay.
Because personal injury claims are filed in circuit court.
Circuit court.
And we have one here in Jonesboro. There's a wherever the county seat is. For instance, there's one in Harrisburg.
Okay.
There's one in Paragould. There's one in Piggott, up in Clay County. Piggott and Corning, they have dual. Mississippi County has dual in Osceola and Blytheville. There's one in Marion.
Oh, wow.
So that's our judges who sit in Jonesboro also sit in those places, and that's our judicial district. But that's a circuit court, and they travel the circuit throughout this district.
Oh, okay.
And so any personal injury case, if it's filed, will be in circuit court.
Okay.
Right? Now, on the other hand, workers' comp cases are filed in Little Rock with the Workers' Comp Commission. It's an administrative process, and you don't get a jury trial. You just get a trial in front of a judge.
Okay.
So the process is different. And we have a form called a Form C for claim that's available online, and you can file that claim. Doesn't cost any money, and you can file a workers' comp claim free of charge by sending that into Little Rock.
Okay.
So, but yeah, lots of times what we have is, let's say I have an employee who's injured and he says, I can't work any longer.
Okay.
All right. I'm really injured. Say I've got a back injury, had back surgery, and I'm really limited, and I really can't do any work anymore. Well, a lot of times the insurance companies get surveillance on that person. They'll have a private investigator go out and take some video. And, it happens fairly regularly that before a trial, I'll get a a letter in the mail, and it'll say, I've got video of your client.
Oh, wow.
And so, say they may be out riding a four-wheeler, or maybe out walking to pick up their mail or something. And, it's always, it seems like they always try to make it out worse than it is. But it happens sometimes that you get inconsistencies. That's part of this process. I always have that meeting with my client on the front end to say, never exaggerate your symptoms. Always tell it exactly. Don't tell it any better than it is or any worse than it is, because it can come back. The truth, the great thing about the truth, and I love saying this in trial, is it never changes. If you tell the truth, it's always the same. So that is a difficult issue, because the surveillance is admissible generally, and they give it to the judge, and if the person gets up there and says, hey, I can't even walk to the mailbox, and then they've got a video of them, playing with their child out in the yard or something, it's a problem. But, in these kinds of circumstances, I do find that insurance companies, they want to do that and want to show that someone is doing something they're saying they can't do. But in those circumstances, everybody continues to live. Even if they can't work, it doesn't mean they're sitting in their house all day not able to move. So we have to have some reality to that kind of circumstance.
I'm glad you brought up that argument. There are a lot of individuals who have handicap placards. Well, there's something that has happened to them that the state has deemed them disabled. And so some people still get a lot of dirty looks when they're able to drive, but people don't know what their disability is. I see a lot of posts on Facebook and Instagram. Some people suffer from internal things that you can't see. Not every disability is visible. So there are just some people, they're going to complain. They don't care. Like, they want to see you on crutches, on a walker, in a wheelchair, before they determine whether you are truly.
Everybody wants that front parking place.
Yes, sir. All right, well, we're going to get ready to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about, a new show that's come on. I can't remember the channel, and I'll find it. Scandal Made Me Famous. Have we become a society of just suing for the heck of suing? So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What are your words doing to your marriage? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. We all know how powerful words can be. They have the power to poison and even kill a relationship. But they also have the power to build up and breathe life into a relationship. Here are 5 types of words that can help breathe life into your marriage. First, respectful words. Choosing to use respectful words with your spouse means choosing to honor them, not undermine them. Second, affirming words. No matter how long you've been together, your spouse still desires to be validated for something they say or do well. For more kinds of words that breathe life into your marriage, check out markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
The McDaniel Law Firm, 400 South Main Street in Jonesboro, is a firm believer in justice and equality for the minority community. The McDaniel Law Firm has fought for our rights for over 44 years. The McDaniel Law Firm offers legal help for wrongful death as well as trucking and automobile accidents. Bobby and Brett McDaniel are available for a free consultation at 870-336-4747 or at www.mcdanielllawyers.com.
Starks Auto Plaza, your pre-owned superstore, is a longtime supporter of KLEK. 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard, Starks offers clean, reliable vehicles of all makes and models. Starks also offers no-hassle pricing, friendly service, financing options with approved credit. At Starks, you're always family, and our motto is, we never say no. 870-203-9980. StarksAutoPlaza.com.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more. With a motto of, anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM wants to be active in the community. If you or your organization is hosting a community service event, we would like to know about it and be a part of it. KLEK will promote your event on air, online, and on social media. KLEK personalities may also attend the event and provide music and or entertainment. Certain restrictions and availability may apply. If you or your organization would like to partner with KLEK to make the Jonesboro community a better place, call 870-277-1080 or email us at klek@klekfm.org. In order for a community announcement or church announcement to be aired on KLEK 102.5 FM, we ask that the announcement be sent at minimum 1 week in advance. Thank you for supporting KLEK 102.5 FM.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and today is Ask the Attorney Day with Mr. Scott Willhite, a local attorney here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And so we've been talking in the first part about workers' compensation, personal injury, how files were claimed, and other information surrounding those topics. I know I said that we were going to talk about, have we become a country of just suing for the heck of it, but we want to finish up on workers' comp and talk a little bit more about why there are different laws in place. Why are there protections, I should say, in place for the company or the employee? Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, and what we were talking about off air, Quabila, is some people look at workers' comp as maybe a windfall to the employee.
Okay.
Maybe some benefit the employee is getting that they should not get. And I get that from some employers that don't understand, well, why would this person have a right to get medical bills paid if they're hurt while they're working?
Okay.
The problem that maybe we don't look at directly is the reason we have workers' comp laws is because if we did not have them, the employee could sue their employer in circuit court for the personal injury. Now, there's a trade-off. They would have to prove negligence. Okay. So for instance, if the employer had a machine, and they maybe took the guard off or something just to make it quicker for the employee to do the work, and let's say the employee's hand got in there and cut off the hand.
Okay.
If the workers' comp law was not in place, there'd be a suit in circuit court possibly for that loss. It could result in millions of dollars. On the other hand, a workers' comp claim, if that happens, may only result in $20,000 or $30,000.
Okay.
So it's a trade-off. It benefits both parties to some extent, and it takes away rights of both parties to some extent. But it was a compromise to limit the liability of employers, but make sure that employees got, and you can read this directly in the law, the Arkansas Workers' Comp Law. The reason we have Workers' Comp Law is to provide medical care, provide temporary benefits so the person has something to live on while they're hurt, and to get them back to work.
Okay.
So it's not a system to just provide a free ride. It's meant to accomplish a specific purpose.
Okay. I want to ask this question. There's a company, and I won't say their name. It's a factory, and they have been known to have had several injuries at this company. And you mentioned something about, what if the employer takes the guard off, and what if the employer does this, that, or the other to make the job easier? Well, there's a particular machine. I have a friend that knows someone that has gotten, finger cut off. And other people have said that even if you're moving slower, you stick your hand in a certain way, you have to be mindful. So with a situation like that, the company knows this machine is necessary for the production, but it is also dangerous. Is there not a way for someone to step up and maybe push the the company's hand and say, okay, you need to find a way to make this machine much more safer, or I don't know.
Well, we have regulations, maybe like OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health. Those overlay, and they don't directly impact workers' comp.
Okay.
Because workers' comp just means it's a means to pay for the loss and get medical care and get the person back to work. The OSHA regs require employers to do certain things that are safe.
Okay.
So the OSHA laws may penalize the employer if that happens, if it's an unsafe work condition.
Okay.
But under the work comp laws, you cannot sue your employer unless it's an intentional injury.
Intentional injury. Okay.
So generally, the worker would just have to live with whatever the worker's. A finger may be worth $3,000 or $4,000, and if they lose it, that's just unfortunate.
Oh wow.
So, and it depends on how much they make per hour and some various factors.
Okay.
But there's a specific statute that says your finger is worth a certain number of weeks, and that's used to calculate the dollar amount that your finger's worth, and that's the way the law is written in Arkansas, and that's the way it's written in most states. But OSHA can come in and fine an employer for unsafe work practices, and that is certainly a way to help take care of that situation.
Okay, so if too many employees start filing workers' comp claims against a company, then that would raise red flags for someone else, another entity, to come in and say, okay, we need to look at something.
It sure could, and also the insurance company for that employer would probably come in and say, is there a problem? Do we need to have some increase your rates and check your practices and things of that sort? So that's
so there's a cycle going on here.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I did want to talk about concerning the scandal aspect. You've gotten someone in court. They've gotten their claim. They've been awarded their claim. And so after it's all said and done, do you ever have either whatever attorney is either representing or against? Please tell me what the names. Would you call it a prosecutor in that case?
Well, no, that's a criminal setting.
Okay.
So you would just say in the workers' comp setting, it's the claimant or the respondent.
Okay.
So the claimant is the person injured, and the respondent is the employer.
Okay. After it's all said and done, judges, drop the gavel. Does the respondent then try to come back and do their own investigation, or have to see, okay, I still don't trust this person or their claim? Can they do follow-up investigation and then try to bring the person back? I don't know.
Once the trial takes place, it's over. It's over. It's very difficult to bring in evidence after the trial. Now, I've seen it attempted. I've tried to do it sometimes when something, say a medical record came in afterwards that was important from my viewpoint. I tried to get it in, but it's very difficult to do that.
Okay.
Once the trial happens, that's usually the end of the evidence.
Okay. Have you seen situations in? I know you're being a lawyer. You have to be a good judge of character. Be able to read. You try to, get a good read on people. You've done this. How long have you been doing this?
Since 1989.
Okay, so you've come across a lot of different types of people.
Right.
So have you ever had someone come in and you just, no, that's false. They're lying. Like you just know, like this is.
I've had. Usually, what happens is I sit them down in my office and I question them about some specific things, whether they did or did not, and I ask them, did you report this to the doctor? Did you report it to your employer? Is there a medical test that was done to prove this? So, I think there's a lot of safety nets in that conversation that keep us hopefully out of that scenario. But every now and then, we'll have someone that is a really good liar.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and they will tell me a story, and I'll find out at some later point it's not true.
How does it make you feel as a lawyer? Like, I really put my all and my energy into this person. I really believe them. And then for them to come back and for you to find out all that was a hoax, what does that do to you as a lawyer?
Well, most of what lawyers do in court is stand on their reputation.
Okay.
We can tell facts, we can make legal arguments, But other lawyers and judges have a level of respect for a lawyer based on their integrity.
Okay.
And it certainly does not help my integrity when I go, and most of the cases I try, workers' comp cases are here in Jonesboro, but some of them are down in Little Rock. We have judges that drive here to Jonesboro every Friday to try workers' comp cases. And I believe I've developed a good rapport with those judges, and I certainly don't want to jeopardize that. And I want to make sure before I go to court that I've done a thorough investigation to see what all evidence is available.
Okay.
But sometimes the evidence is not clear. Sometimes there's evidence on both sides.
Okay.
And so, and I'll say this too, in workers' comp cases, lots of times, the only people I have to support my claim, for instance, let's just say the question is whether an incident actually happened at work.
Okay.
Let's say there's a question, my person says, I fell down, and you've got 3 or 4 people around who are co-employees, and they're going to have to testify.
Okay.
It seems there's always a hesitancy to testify if that co-employee is still employed by the company.
Okay.
They may get a little heat if they say, yeah, this really did happen. And sometimes it's hard to know if there's a question in their mind to the truth, or whether they are feeling like they may lose their job if they testify truthfully. And that's a hard line to draw, because I wasn't there, I don't know, and I'm just asking questions and trying to get the truth. But that happens a lot, where co-employees are hesitant to testify and don't want to be subpoenaed to court.
Gotcha. So, even when they know the company was in the wrong, or something wrong was done, or the person is filing the claim, they deserve to have their day in court, or they deserve whatever they're claiming, or whatever they're going for. But someone is so concerned about their own. Okay. I mean, sure. I understand that. I do. I guess it just kind of goes back to, what's best.
Well, think about this, though. There's one aspect of workers' comp law that's very concerning to me.
Okay.
If you file a workers' comp claim and you get fired, there's not really a law that greatly benefits you. And that's, I've spoken to some legislators about this. There's a couple of laws that are supposed to deal with this, but neither one of them deal with it very well. And so if you file a claim, or you have an accident at work and are thinking about filing a claim and you get fired, there's not a law that really helps you very much. And the employer pretty much gets away with it if they do things right.
Okay.
So that's a problem. And the same with a co-employee who's testifying about an accident. There's not a very good law that helps them if they testify truthfully and then they get fired.
Okay, so everybody just wrap yourself in bubble wrap or something. I don't know what to tell you, but try to be careful on the job, and hopefully you don't find yourself in any one of these situations where you have to go against your employer and then take a chance on your claim being shot down.
Now let me give the other side. Lots of employers around this town do not practice their business that way. They are very straightforward and don't get into that kind of activity. But I have seen it.
Okay.
So I have seen co-employees really scared to come to court. So it's just about doing the right thing.
Okay.
It's about having integrity, doing the right thing when no one's looking.
That's right. Okay. I like that. Okay, so do you ever see, and this kind of goes back to my scandal question, do you ever see people whose names pop up more than one time, and it kind of makes you a light bulb go off, like, I've seen this name before? Are they just prone to injuries? Sure. Or like, what is really going on with this person?
And understand that when someone has a claim, a workers' comp claim, one of the first things the insurance company does is they run a claim history on that person to see how many claims they have filed.
Oh my God.
So they have all that information at their disposal, and they will use it very effectively. Wow. So if that person has had 2 or 3 claims before, especially with that same body part. For instance, let's say they injured their shoulder, and they had another, claim for another shoulder injury 2 years ago and another one 6 years ago. That's all information they will have available and can use against that person.
Oh my God.
very automated now. Insurance companies have lots of information.
Wow. So they can basically say, okay, look, we've seen you before. We've seen your name before.
Absolutely.
Either you should not have been working in this industry, whatever you say caused your injury to that shoulder, you shouldn't have been working in that industry to begin with. Found another low-key job. So at some point, just say this person has filed 3. They filed 3 claims already. Like you said, same body part, same side of the body, general area. Will the companies then say, we're not taking your case, we're not honoring your claim?
Sometimes, it raises a big question as to the legitimacy of that problem.
Okay.
The legitimacy of that claim. So it's certainly a defense they can use to say, did the last time you injured this body part, did you resolve the situation and get back to work? Was there medical testing at that last injury that can show the extent of the injury? All those are questions that we get in just about every claim where there's a prior injury like that.
Okay. I saw this, situation. It was on a show, and I always feel like TV gets their storylines from somewhere. It was Rizzoli and Al's, and Rizzoli, Jane's cousin, was coming to town, and he was coming to her friend's house, and the friend, she's all gullible or whatever, and Jane and her mom and her brother were like, we got to childproof the house. Basically, she was like, he does stuff intentionally. And so throughout the course of the show, you can see them running around trying to proof the house for him, and he gets there, you think everything's going great. Then he's in the kitchen cooking, and so everybody's like, no, you shouldn't let him in the kitchen. There's grease and there's water. So it goes on, and so sure enough, he ends up spilling a little bit of grease on the floor, and he ends up slipping and falling, and then he tries to file a claim, but because his family already knew what he was about, they basically cut him off at the pass. And so I'm just wondering if you ever see things like that, people who just go around looking for wet spots on the floor, or they look for the cracks and the holes in pavement, or have you ever seen cases where people just seem like they look for stuff?
Very rarely have I seen anything like that. But I've been practicing 28 years. Is it 28? I've been 28 years now. It's 2017. Mm-hmm. So 89. It's about 28 as of this month, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, I've seen that in a handful, maybe 3 or 4 times. I've seen things happen where, at the outset, when I first met the person, they seem legitimate, and later on, I find stuff, and then it just snowballs, and suddenly that person is totally, telling a lie about the whole situation. I've seen that where they were looking for a reason to sue, and I just haven't seen it as often as people think it happens.
Okay.
Most of the people I come across with seem to be legitimate, and they have a factual basis for their claim. But yeah, every now and then you will see a circumstance, and it's really ugly when it happens, and you usually don't find out the facts that you need to know to help you make that determination until well into the case. So you've spent time and money, and then you're in a position where you just have to sort of fold your tents and go home and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing here.
Okay.
And it's bad for everybody.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that you have come across a lot of different cases. What are some of the ones that, of course, without giving away any identifying characteristics of the case, what have been some of the most interesting, and I say interesting is when you're in court, you want to chuckle because of the just how it's all playing out. Not at the injury of the person, but you just have to sit back like, really, is this happening like this?
I tell you, I had an incident about 4 or 5 years ago. I was trying a case over in Marion, and I was representing a gentleman who had fallen in an open hole. He was working, it was at night, he was a driver for a freight company, and it was a fast pace. He and another driver were teaming so that they would drive all night, all day, and they would get to a location, and one would sleep while the other one was driving. But he was going through the West Memphis area, and there was an open hole at a gas station, and it wasn't well lit.
Okay.
And he stepped in it, and he hurt his back.
Ooh.
Okay, so he had back surgery. And so it was a very serious injury, and it really affected his ability to work. We were trying the case in Marion, and it was about a 3-day trial. And on day 2, the insurance company called a doctor to testify.
Okay.
And that doctor testified that there was nothing wrong with this guy. He shouldn't have had surgery. And you know, it was a very diametrically opposed opinion to every other doctor who had testified, because my client frankly had 2 or 3 doctors that said absolutely serious injury, needs surgery, and he did have surgery. It made him better, and he went back to work. He wasn't, claiming Social Security disability or anything. He was back to work at a lighter pace. But this doctor came in and said there was nothing wrong with him. He was faking. And right in the middle of that doctor testifying, I was questioning. I was cross-examining that doctor, trying to figure out why he was saying those things. And from behind me, I hear my client just start screaming and yelling and just throwing a fit. And believe me, I had no idea what to do. He was screaming at the top of his lungs. The jury was sitting there. They were looking at me. I was looking at them. I was looking at the judge. We didn't know what to do. And he was crying, and just all kinds of emotions were coming out. And we had to stop and take a break. And my client went back to just a little side room in there, and we calmed him down. But it was the strangest thing that ever had happened in a trial.
Oh my God. Those are those days that you wish you could have video in the courtroom.
Oh my, yes.
All right, so we're going to get ready to take another quick break and want to give a shout out to Mr. Wes Eddington. Hello from Wes and Debbie. Thank you so much for checking in, Mr. Wes. Wow, that was hilarious. So we're going to try to wrap it up when we come back. We have some questions for us. Don't go away.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. When is the right time to combine your finances in a relationship? Examples of financial intimacy include opening joint bank accounts, co-signing on an apartment lease, and sharing access to your credit cards. Engaging in financial intimacy prematurely can have major negative consequences for your financial health, including your credit. Here's what you need to consider. What do you really know about your love interest's financial habits? Don't go by assumptions or what you're told, but what you can learn by observation. Does your sweetheart abuse credit cards? Does he or she honor financial commitments? Does he or she contribute to a retirement account? Or are they counting on the lottery to fund their retirement? Once you combine your money, your finances will be affected by your honey's financial habits and vice versa. If you're not sure, especially after a year or more, or if your partner resists or resents your efforts to learn more about how they handle money, do not mix your finances. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Blues Live for 5, Part 2 at Legends Barbecue Smokehouse. Only $5 admission. Saturday, August 19th, 7 o'clock p.m. Featuring from Dallas, Texas, Lerone Powers.
What's the name of that thing? Put on me last night.
Lerone Powers.
And you're the mother, but don't you get caught. You're gonna have to pay the cost.
Performing all of his hits.
Ain't nothing but a party. Jumping like a pole in the wall.
Lerone Powers. Don't miss it. Blues Live for 5 at Legends Barbecue Smokehouse. Saturday, August 19th. 7 o'clock p.m. Only $5 admission. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
KLEK wishes to thank Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping our community through difficult times in life, such as depression, family issues, stress, and more. They are located at 1217 Stone Street, 1-866-972-1268. Details at lscihelp.com and at klekfm.org.
Post Consumer Brands is seeking to hire 5 operators at their Jonesboro facility. Post offers good starting pay, 3 weeks of paid vacation, comprehensive benefits, 401k with employee match, and frontline incentives, while working 4 days on and 4 days off. More information is available at jobs.postconsumerbrands.com. Post Consumer Brands is an equal opportunity employer.
Arkansas Early Learning offers child care activities and educational programs to children ages 0 to 5 that gives them a head start in life. Arkansas Early Learning is in the community at no cost. Applications at arearlylearning.org. That's arearlylearning.org or on Facebook at Arkansas Early Learning.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
From the KLEK Community Calendar, Bethesda Worship and Healing Center presents Community Back to School event, August 12, 2017, from 8 o'clock a.m. until 2 o'clock p.m. This event will take place at Parker Park in Jonesboro. There will be school supplies, food, haircuts, drinks, entertainment, and basketball games provided. There will also be members of the police department, local pastors, the fire department, and other members of the community present. There will also be a 3-point shootout, a dunk contest, and more. More information on donating school supplies and about this event is available at Daddy's Choice Barbershop, 2301 East Johnson Avenue in Jonesboro, Bethesda Worship and Healing Center, 2215 North Church Street, or at 870-761-4480.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. And we're going to wrap up our conversation discussing workers' comp issues, laws, and personal injury and things that surround that. And so I asked Mr. Scott off air to address. Okay, we talked about individuals filing false claims or multiple claims just for the sake of maybe trying to make some extra money, whatever their reasoning is, or they don't want to work or whatever. Now, on the flip side, in most of these cases, a doctor has to come to court, testify on whatever the issue is, and some doctors don't want to, but there are some that will, and for those that seem to, they come, and you might see the same doctor almost all the time, depending on what area you live in.
Well, actually, just to clarify that, the doctors generally don't come to court.
Oh, they don't come to court.
In workers' comp cases, we can submit their reports, their written reports. So that makes it very easy in workers' comp cases. In personal injury cases, we do what's called a deposition, where we go to their office with a court reporter and the other attorney, and we take their testimony. Sometimes we do it by video, just so it's just like they're in court. Okay, I apologize for misstating. Thank you so much for clearing it up. Well, for the ones that come, and some of them may seem just overly enthusiastic, confident, or whatever yes, this person is hurt, they can no longer, in some cases, and I asked Mr. Scott, has he ever seen a case where a doctor may have been paid off? I think TV has tainted my view. Yes, it's tainted my view of how things really work. So please address it. I've never actually seen that. I've had clients that tell me they think that happened, but I'm not sure that really is very realistic. Okay. Most doctors I know are very honest, straightforward people, and probably just don't want to go to court. Okay. They don't want to be in a litigation. They'd rather practice medicine than try to be in the courtroom. And I understand that. It's just that in these cases, what sometimes the doctors don't understand is the person who's being treated has to have some sort of help from the doctor to make their legal case.
Okay.
And so the medical side of it is an integral part of their case, and we have to have that testimony. And there are doctors that are more than willing to testify in a deposition or through a medical record, and there's some that just don't want to be involved. And we just, as lawyers, we have to deal with that and try to get as much information as we can.
Okay. Now, also, there are a lot of people who file claims, and some may file false claims. And then you see those who seek to, going back to this scandal may be famous topic, there are people who will hold a press conference or stand out somewhere and do a live video or protest. And I say protest on a lower scale, basically drawing attention. I was done wrong and they don't want to hear my, some people do some wild things. Have you ever seen a situation like that where someone was so determined to get their case heard outside of the courtroom, on the street, in the store, like anywhere they went, they made a big ruckus about it?
I can count those cases on one hand.
Okay.
And usually near the incident, there's so much emotion that is surrounding that incident that it has to come out some way. And I've seen a couple of clients that I can think of who really wanted to tell their story either on the news, the radio, some way, but once a little time had passed and they sort of thought through that process again and understood that doesn't benefit anyone, it probably negatively affects the case, because then certain people who have heard information could not be jurors.
Okay.
So you have a situation where it'd be hard to get a fair trial on a location. But that's probably more an issue you deal with in a criminal matter.
Okay.
If you had a very, very serious crime that was committed, and civil matters generally don't produce that kind of issue very often.
Okay. I know that's kind of extreme. I'm sorry. I'm always all over the place. So I can't thank you enough for joining us today. Any final thoughts, advice for people that may think, do I have a claim or do I not?
Well, and I can say we do free consultations on personal injury cases and workers' comp cases. Speak with a lawyer before too much time passes, so you can analyze whether the situation you have may be a legitimate claim or not. There's lots of times we have people that call in and we don't file their claims because it's just not a valid claim, but we give advice on those.
I'm sorry. Have you ever seen a case that was settled outside of court? The injury or the situation was civil or not? It was at such a level that you and another lawyer can come together, litigate, and settle at that time.
That happens very, very often.
Okay.
That's what we try to do.
All right.
Try to make peace.
That's right. Because it costs a lot of money to go to court, get the judge and the lawyers and this and that and all this hundreds of pieces of paperwork that you have to file. I can't even imagine what you take to court with you.
And computers have made things more efficient, but still, the pieces of paper we take to court are voluminous.
Wow. All right, so we can't thank you enough, and all of the lawyers here in town, for all the hard work that you do. And I guess happy anniversary, for being in law for 28 years.
Thank you.
I know it's only, it's not like a zero number year, so but will you do anything special to kind of highlight?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it.
Okay.
I haven't even thought about it.
Alrighty.
I will now.
You deserve to celebrate your accomplishment and your success, and
thank you.
Just still being in the business. So thank you so much for all that you do for us here at the station as well. I know we bug you a lot with our legal questions. So hopefully next month when Mr. Scott comes, we can have some more guests and we'll plan something a little special and get some different points of view from other lawyers in town. But I'm going to work on that. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow, which is Thursday. Yes, we will have Dr. Rendell Kesselring from Arkansas State University, and we'll be talking about economics. Oh, I know that's a hard course, but there's some topics that we need to understand as a community, as a society, as a state. So I hope that you tune in and get your economic one-on-one questions ready. So thank you so much, and everyone have a very blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not